Okay, so welcome back. I'm going to today discuss setting up an Active Directory server, but doing it through Windows core, so no graphical user interface. And we'll configure some settings like changing the computer name and changing the IP address so that we can start the process of creating an Active Directory domain, making sure that it works, the domain control actually works properly. So it's the first couple of stages exactly like the other installation, but I'm just going to write DC, but I'm going to just write core version. So there's no graphical user interface. While I'm doing this, just go through the motion here. Doesn't matter what you put there, as long as it's 2.5 gigs or 2 gigs and a bit's pretty good. But the reason we're doing why this would be beneficial is that we want to reduce the attack surface by getting rid of the graphical elements out of the installation. But also we want to lower the stress level on the resources on, say, for example, the CPU and the RAM. So as usual, we're going to use the Windows image. Just going to browse for it. Same here, data center evaluation. Next, and pretty simple. Nothing extravagant, straightforward. We've got the Dns Server core. Right click, and we're going to start this virtual machine. Right click and connect to it. Okay, so we'll keep on going. Again, I like to use the time and currency format. I prefer putting it as Australia, locally. In a lab environment, doesn't really matter that much, I guess, but it's just good habits to get into. Language to install, that's fine. Keyboard, it's all okay. We'll install now. Now this, in theory, should be a faster process than a GUI-based, graphical user interface-based experience. In theory anyway. So we'll go to data center, but this time we're going to do where there's no brackets of desktop experience. Okay, so we're going to choose that one. Interestingly enough, Microsoft defaults to standard core. I think Microsoft wants us to use the core version, get us used to that. So yeah, this should take less than 2 or 3 minutes. It's much quicker than the graphical user interface, but I'll pause the video in any case. So after everything restarts, and was quite quick in the end, we need to create a password. So we will press OK here, and I'm just going to put my usual password. So the password's been changed, and this is what we've got to work with now. With no graphical user interface. So I'll type in PowerShell, and we've got a PowerShell interface here. Now what we need to do is change the computer name and also change the IP address and the DNS name. There's many ways to do this, but I'll show you the way that that works best for me. Usually there are easier ways, but this way is probably a very common way to do it. We'll start now. Now very quickly, what I like to do is just type hostname, and it's a command line interface. I know that's not PowerShell, but nice and easy, you can remember that. We'll show you that we've got a strange name that Windows has randomly given us, so now we need to change that. Need to rename. So we're in PowerShell. Okay. Clear screen, tidy it up. And it's quite a simple command, rename computer. So what I did here, and this is a good get out of jail card, rename and tab, and then the rest of it, the rest of the command gets automatically typed. Doesn't always work, but yeah, tab, and it helps that. Now I'm going to call it Harry Core DC. Okay, done, easy, finished. We've just renamed the computer. That one command would take us like 2 or 3 minutes in a graphical user interface. But in PowerShell, that's insane. That's really fast. So we'll go to hostname, and we need to. It's still there. We need to restart this computer. So I'm going to type shutdown and /R to restart, and it's going to restart now in less than a minute. So we'll pause the video and wait for this to return back to we get control over it again. That literally took like 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. I probably shouldn't even pause the video. That's how fast it was. So it's really fast. Restarts lightning quick. So I'm just going to into my password, so the password I set up before. And now if I type hostname, there we go, harrycore-dc. Really easy. Let's go into PowerShell, and what we're going to do is we're going to change the IP address, because our DC, our domain controller, should have a static address. It's very important. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get net adapter. We need to know the name of the adapter, and we can see that the name is Ethernet. So that's a good start. So we know the name of the adapter that is the one that we need to change the IP address for. Again, there's different ways that we can do this. I'll show you the easy way. So I can see that the interface index is 2. So what I'll do is I will type this command, get net adapter. I'm going to tab that. No, sorry. I'm going to write set net IP interface, tab, so it can correct it for me. Interface index number 2. And I'm going to disable DHCP. Disabled. Okay. If I'm going to run my favorite command, which is not a PowerShell command, but will still work here. ipconfig. You can never fail with this one. And we can see that, interesting, it looks like it hasn't changed yet. It's still got a paper address. Might have to look into this as to what's happened here. We'll try another command. I was confident that that would work. This is live and raw, so I know it's not edited. So it's a learning moment, as one of my mentors used to say. So let's try something else. Let's try a command. We'll do a new net IP address. We'll try something a bit different here. All right, so we'll go to new net IP address, interface alias, and this is the name of the network interface card. Address family, IP version 4, and we'll give it an IP address. And I think I know what my error was earlier. I think I might even have forgotten to actually put an IP address in there. See that? I didn't even put an IP address in there. So another learning moment, live and raw, remember? Just one of those things where you have to be concentrating and just double check everything, which is why I did check. I went ipconfig /all, double checking, because we will make mistakes all the time. Default gateway, because we're in a lab environment, I'm just going to use my own server as a default gateway, and now I can confirm that that's indeed correct, interface 2. That's okay. Let's just go to ipconfig all and just double check that. So we can see that it's after that ipconfig command, we can see that the IP address has been changed. So we've changed the computer name, We've changed the IP address. The only thing that's left is to actually just change the DNS server address. And what we'll do is we're going to set a DNS server address, and which is, it's not that difficult a command. So what we'll do is we will set DNS client server address, and the server address is, I'm going to do a loopback address. It would be 2, I believe. Yeah. Okay, so that's another learning moment. It's okay. We'll get through this. It's maybe we're overcomplicating this a bit, but let's go back to the drawing board. So we'll go to set DNS client server address. We'll go to interface index, which I believe was 2, server address, and we will do 27. Okay, IP config, and there we go. Now we've got our DNS server as our loopback address. Got there in the end. We made a. This is fun. I love it when I encounter little issues like this. Like, I've done this a million times, but it's one of those things where sometimes you might be under pressure, or you get a bit of stage fright, and you just forget the commands. But that's okay. Learning moments. So now we've done that. So we've configured the computer name. We've changed the IP address. We've set the DNS to ourselves. Now it's time to install the domain controller, and we're going to do that now. And the first step in this process is we're going to get Windows. Oops. Keep tabbing until we hit the feature. And we can see that this is a list of the features that we have already there. It's good to run that command to see where we are. We can see that the DNS server is not active, and Active Directory Domain Services is not ticked. So we know that it's not there. So again, remember with GUI, anything that we can do in a graphical user interface, we can do in PowerShell. And it's still, even though graphical user interface is really good for us to visualize things, we can still visualize it in PowerShell in Windows Core. So the next step is to install the domain service. So simple command, install Windows feature Active Directory Domain Services, and we need to add one more command. So yeah, we need to add include management tools, which is what couldn't for the life of me remember what that command was. I had to go into one of my trusty textbooks. Include management tools. So install Windows feature Active Directory Domain Service, include management tools. Yeah, notice a little bit of a spelling error. Forgot to put an S at the end there. And that will install the role. Then the next step will be to promote this server to a domain controller. We'll just put pause while that does go through. Next step is now we're going to promote this to a domain controller, and it's a very simple command again. We have to set the forest up first. We'll give it a name. I'm just going to call it harry.com. I'm just going to put a password here. Yes to all. And hopefully everything should run nice and smoothly. We'll give that some time. We'll pause and we'll come back to this shortly. So that's just playing the computer settings. If it was a graphical user interface, it would take a really long time. But this shouldn't take very long at all. Maybe a minute or so, but we'll pause, we'll come back, we'll wait till it finishes. So this actually took a little bit longer than I thought. It was surprising actually, but it's working fine now. So we're going to jump into our configuration. We'll go into PowerShell. Clear screen because I like to put things nice and tidy. Then what we're going to do is I'm just going to make sure, again, double check to make sure everything's good. So we're going to get Windows feature. It'll go and find some information about what we've configured. Now I'm looking for DNS, and I'm looking for, which I can see there. That's good. And Active Directory domain services. We have now configured Active Directory on Windows Core. Now I know that I've spent a little bit longer explaining this than with a graphical user interface, but once you get used to this, once you have all the commands ready and you've memorized them or you have them in a notepad somewhere, you can configure this. You can do the command settings in like seconds. You just have to wait for it to restart. But that's the gist of it. In the next lesson, I'm going to return back into the GUI where we're going to set up users, we're going to set up groups, and we're going to set up organizational units. Then in a video presentation after the GUI, we're going to do all that in a PowerShell environment. So thank you for viewing, and we'll see you soon.